Hey Bears, Eric here, and the new trailer for Captain America Brave New World, Captain America 4, dropped today. We're not going to watch the trailer here because Marvel is relentless going after people, and I don't feel like fighting with them to watch a trailer here to give you guys my thoughts on the trailer. So the movie comes out on 2/14/25. It's had massive amounts of money injected back into it for reshoots, things like that. We know this. All of this has been dramatized on the internet. I don't know what's going to happen with the movie. If it's going to be a massive win, if it's not going to make its money back, I don't know. I have no idea. I know there's a lot of people that have issues with the movies because of political reasons, because of social reasons. We're not going to talk about that here. You have to make the decision on whether or not you're going to go see the movie. That's neither here nor there. That's on you. For me personally, I'm not trying to convince anybody otherwise. However, I do want to talk about the discourse around Sam as Captain America, because that's something that's always interested me pretty much since the Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV series, and how we've seen people react to the passing of the torch, the passing of the shield, as you would say, from Steve Rogers to Sam. And some of the arguments and debates we've had online about it, the hashtag not my Captain America, hashtag Steve Rogers is my Captain America crowd. For the most part, the bigger players in the game, the chud tubers, the grift tubers, the people that we keep an eye on, they never really, as far as I remember, they've never really come out and been like, we don't want him because he's a black Captain America. They've talked about it. They've mentioned it, obviously, because Anthony in interviews has talked about it. There's been discourse around it. It is a talking point within the series about him being a black Captain America. But none of them wanted to come out and just go, we don't like him because he's a black guy as Captain America. And the reason why is because they want that deniability to go back and go, I never said anything like that, because that's like a microaggressive racist statement, sometimes outwardly racist. They don't want to do that because they want to be able to just like deny all of that. And that's how they play the game. We've talked about this. A lot of them are very good at like skating around the issue or saying things in a way so that they can go back later on and say, well, wait, I didn't say specifically that thing. However, some people on the internet don't seem to have an issue with it. One particular person kind of shocked me that they said the quiet part out loud, I guess. But let's look at some of the discourse around this trailer, because when people tell me nobody's mad that it's a black guy playing Captain America, it's because they just love Steve Rogers. And I'm like, no, there's a very loud portion of the internet that is out there saying they don't like this Captain America because he's a black guy. So if you head over to Instagram and you read comments under the trailer, under a post about this movie, you will see very clearly that a lot of people have no issue with going in and making either blatantly racist comments or microaggressive comments about a black Captain America. But it's all there, right? It's all there in front of us. And a lot of this has to do with like meme culture and the way humor is on the internet. And I'm not completely oblivious to that. I get it. But some of this stuff leads in to actual harm, actual comments and abusive behavior that we see from certain people in the space. Now, I'm not talking about people, and I want to make this very clear, because I know in the comments you're going to be like, not everybody feels this way. Look, I know that. I'm not talking about that. And this is where that little like media literacy comes into play, because like when Star Wars and other companies come out and they talk about racism towards actors, or misogyny, or any other ism against someone in the movie or TV show, they're not talking about the people who don't feel that way. If you're somebody that doesn't feel this way about Captain America and you just prefer another version of Captain America, that's absolutely fine. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking specifically about the people who leave comments that are being racist, like racist comments. If you are not someone out here leaving racist comments and making racist comments about Sam as Captain America, then this ain't about you. It's not about you. I hate that I have to make it that clear, but I have to make it that clear. There's a lot of people that I like Steve Rogers as Captain America. I love Chris in that role, and I will always go back and watch that trilogy and love seeing him as Captain America. Sam being Captain America now doesn't take anything away from how I feel or how much I love Steve Rogers as Captain America. I'm ready to see what they're going to do with Sam as Captain America. I may like it, I may not like it, but I'm not going to get upset about all of this now because Captain America is a black guy. That's the difference. That's the difference. Like, this behavior is not chill. It's not good. And then you have this here. It really sucks. This movie is being bogged down by She Who Shall Not Be Named because Sam looks awesome in the trailer and it's his first solo Cap movie. Just sucks. And some random person here goes, no one wanted a black Captain America. No one wanted it. This is the kind of stuff. And when we complain about people like Nerdrotic, a lot of these other channels, this is why we do that, because people who have even less media literacy than the other people they're listening to, other people they're following, they just start repeating and parroting stuff they're seeing in the comments, in the chat. It just spirals. That's what it does. And this is why supporting that kind of stuff, those kinds of channels without any sort of responsibility for the community they cultivate is very dangerous. And that's why we call them out. That's why we do what we do. Here's another one. Steve Rogers and Sam Wilson as Captain America. It's a really cool shot here of the two of them using the shield, being in the moment. You know, it's nothing, just a fucking picture of the two of them. And then you scroll down here in this comment, it says, actually, it's Steve Rogers as Captain America and a black guy pretending. Look, all of these comments are awful. And yes, it is a product of the environment that we are in on the internet. It's just the reality we exist in. However, when somebody with a large platform, somebody who is connected with the GriftTube, ChudTube space starts saying stuff like this, that's when it becomes a problem. And you would say, well, Eric, no one out there in that space is actually saying that they don't like Captain America simply because he's a black guy. And I would say, yeah, up to a certain point, you were right. Except now we have this. John Delarose, JDA, posted this and says, I don't know who needs to hear this, but it's okay to not want to go see a movie where Captain America is replaced by a black guy. It's not really okay, John. That's not okay. If your entire reason for not seeing the movie is because you don't want to see a black man, that's not okay. It's just not. Like I said earlier, if you prefer Steve Rogers as Captain America, that's the Captain America you love, and you're just not interested in any other versions of Captain America, there's no problem with that. There's no issue with that. But if you were specifically saying, I am not going to see a movie that otherwise I would go see, a movie that I would be interested in, specifically because it's a black guy, that is a problem. And then, of course, here I go. Leave it to you to say what everyone else in your space has been lying about. It is about him being black, and it is to them. They just don't want to say it. JDA this is why a lot of them will not associate with JDA. He is a loose cannon when it comes to stuff like this. He is a issue with the facade that they put up. A lot of those channels do not want to be outwardly this because this makes it harder for them to reach a broader audience. JDA doesn't care because he will never be those guys. He will never be at the level of all the people that he's tried to copy over the years. So he is now just going to be more and more outwardly and extreme when it comes to this stuff because he will never ever be those guys. So he's got to go further with it and say stuff like this. Isn't the first time he said stuff like this. And so him doing this is a liability for that space because they don't necessarily want people to know that they don't like Captain America because it's a black guy. They would prefer to play the game that they just prefer Steve Rogers. Now, the reason why I say prefer to pretend is because they know there are people in their community that consider it a dog whistle. And when you're not specific, you leave room for interpretation, and interpretation can go in a lot of different directions when you're talking about something where there is some sort of racist conversations happening in that space. And I'm not necessarily saying that they are 100% finger on the button accountable for every single instance of somebody doing this. But when you have a large platform, you kind of owe it to everybody else to be very specific when there's any sort of doubt about what you're saying. For example, earlier in this video, when I made it very clear what I was talking about versus what it could be perceived as, I did that. So there is no question about specifically what I'm talking about here, which is actual legitimate racist comments about Captain America. That is what I'm talking about. And I hated that I had to do that, but because of this climate, you kind of have to. You kind of owe it to the people who are watching your content to be specific in that way. So, down here in the comment, Bucky should have been chosen. It just makes more sense. It doesn't. Bucky was a terrorist. Bucky was a terrorist. We got to see Bucky have a redemption arc, but in the eyes of the general public, he was not the right choice to take over as Captain America in the MCU. Make it make sense, because it doesn't. It doesn't make sense. Sam was the only logical choice in this situation. And Steve Rogers in the movies passed the shield on to Sam specifically. And it's been done in the comics way before it happened now. So it's not like it just happened out of nowhere. This is something that was established in the comic books. So here's the thing, to reiterate what I was saying. If you don't want to see the movie because you're not interested in the continuation of this Captain America story, that's absolutely fine. But if you are someone that would have gone and seen this movie because you like this character, you like the storyline, and you're specifically not doing it because it is a Black person, that is where the issue arises. Don't be that person. And certainly don't get on the internet and act like it's a proud thing to be like, I'm not seeing the movie because this guy is Black. And if you don't understand that, you're part of the problem.